Oke guys, saya sibuk di kamar editing dan suami saya ada di depan. Entah dia lagi ngapain. Jadi seharian dia itu sibuk sendirian. So, kita lihat dia lagi ngapain, oke? I'm starting flu again.
Wasn't my fault.
Very good.
Oh,
Tidak apa-apa. Oh, I'm talk bahasa. Oke guys, suami saya sibuk di sini. Entah dia lagi ngapain. Jadi dia dalam 2 hari ini sibuk sendiri sampai lepas sama istrinya. What?
really?
Itu William. Jadi ngeliat saya aneh lagi ngevlog sendiri, itu lagi mesem-mesem, saya ketawa sendirian. What?
I looked over and you're going like this.
I said 2 days, not peace.
Well, no, I don't classify that as peace. When someone goes like that, I just think of it as like hello and like Asian.
Well, hello, I'm Asian.
Yeah, or like pictures with a bunch of Japanese chicks. They all go like, oh, too quiet.
There are reasons why I'm not allowed when she's recording. You're wonderful.
Okay, someone is busy here. It's been 2 days. That's what I say, 2 days. I don't know what he's doing, so let's get asked. Hi,
Oh, hi.
what you doing?
Well, I was watching a video on the Roland TR-808 drum machine. Let me pause that. Listen to that. Anyway, this thing invented house music, but my biggest problem is I've got all my keyboards and things downstairs and it's an absolute disaster. So I fired up AutoCAD.
Wait, you mean your keyboard is disaster or your room is disaster?
My studio is a disaster. It's never actually been hooked up 100%. So what I'm doing is I fired up AutoCAD. Here, come here, I'll show you. So these are all my toys, all my keyboards.
That's not your toy, that's like a line and
Well,
boxes.
these are them. These are all my toys, my keyboards, samplers, drum machines, mixer, everything. And I'm trying to figure out how to hook it all up to make it fit. Right? Because ultimately, I go to these boxes here, which are my audio cards. And then that takes it all into the computer, right? So I can mix in the computer. But I gotta figure out how to connect all this stuff up because I got more pieces here than I've got inputs to the computer. So that shows all the audio routing, and I've been playing with this to try and figure out how to make it work. Over here is all the control connections for keyboards controlling other keyboards, USB, network, firewire, all that stuff to make it all work.
Okay.
Actually, instead of me trying to explain this, why don't I just show you?
It has like a different color. Explain it.
Well, back in the 80s, a keyboard from, say, Roland could not control a keyboard from Yamaha. So they came up with this basic digital interface called MIDI, which is Musical Instrument Data Interface, something like that, I forget. It's been so long. But what it did is it allowed you to hook one keyboard up to another keyboard, so I could control a Yamaha from a Roland or a Roland from a Korg or whatever. So when I play notes here on this one, it would sound on the other one. It also allowed you to synchronize drum machines and do all sorts of good stuff. So that in the old days is how we did it. And even keyboards today still have MIDI, right? It's a standard that was brought about, what, 80, I think it came out in 82. So what's that, like 35 years? something.
Thanks, you remind me. That's my
Yeah.
birthday.
Oh, the same year you were born. Yeah. But things have advanced a bit. Some of these now have USB, right? Some have both. So what happens is the blue lines are these MIDI connections, so I can control keyboards from other keyboards. These are USB, so like these ones here don't make sound. They're just controllers, like drum pads or whatever.
This one.
And that's these ones here with the USB. And then the blue ones are old serial connections from the old Mac RS-232 connections. So that's sort of pre-MIDI, around the same time MIDI came out. Then I got 3 computers going, or 4, I forget. Yeah, 4 computers. And so those are all connected through Ethernet. And then my audio interfaces, which you don't see here, oh yeah, here they are here. They're all connected to the computer through FireWire. So all the signals go into the audio interfaces, and the audio interfaces connect to the computers through FireWire. So that's how all the sound gets into the computer. These are just used for controlling different keyboards, right? So this is what it all looks like. I'm working on this for 2 days to try and figure it out, but it's actually easier if I show you. I'm going to take you and show you. Come on, man. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on.
Teng teng tereng. Oke guys, jangan kaget, ini masih berantakan seperti yang saya bilang. Ini adalah ruang bermainnya suami saya. Ini semua duit pemirsa, semua duit.
So, this is my playground. What we have here is a bunch of synthesizers, drum machines, samplers, computers, audio interfaces, speakers, drums, sequencers, USB controllers. So some of this stuff goes back to the early 70s. The most recent one that makes sound, I believe, is this guy here. A lot of these are from the 80s. And it was in the 80s when synthesizers really took off. So I'll give you an introduction to what some of these are. This is an old Acetone Rhythm Ace drum box. And what it was a very basic drum machine that you put on top of an organ, so organ players had some beats, right? Acetone eventually became Roland, which made the most famous drum machine in history, the Roland TR-808. This is a Moog synthesizer. I've got 2 of them. One of them's not here. It's in Calgary being serviced. And this was an old analog synthesizer.
How old?
This one is 1976, I believe. Analog was the only way you could make sound back then. Bob Moog is credited as being the grandfather of the synthesizer. Although he wasn't the first to do it, he's the one that first made it commercially viable. So his synthesizers are very valuable. The company went out of business in the 80s, but then he came back.
Can I go out?
Karen, shut up!
Can I go out?
Go! Fucking kids.
Okay, continue.
Anyway, I'll start again.
I will cut that.
Huh?
I will cut that.
Yeah. So, again, the multi-Moog synthesizer. This is the first one I ever bought. And this thing is a classic analog machine. Nothing digital about it. This one here is the Oberheim OBSX, and this is a classic from the 80s. This is famous. It was used on, well, the OBXA, which is a version of this, a higher end version, was used on Van Halen, Jump, Rush. Oh, I can't even start to think of how many records it was on. I've got a smaller version of this, which is about this big, called the Micro Moog. And like I said, it's in being serviced. There's also an ARP Omni 2, which was a string machine. Big in the 70s. A lot of early disco records used it. So this is analog, this is analog, this is analog. This is a microKORG, and it's basically a digital version of these analog machines.
Oh.
So what this does with circuitry, this does in software, and it tries to emulate or copy what this does with circuitry. So because it's a computer, it's a lot cheaper. What else do we got here? This is just an effects pedal for my bass guitar. So come on in. This here is a Roland TR-707 drum machine. It was one of the early drum machines that used digital samples of drums. So instead of using analog circuitry to make drum sounds, it used recordings of drums. These things have suddenly become quite valuable as well. This is an MP7 by Emu Systems. So what this is this is a sequencer. Think of it as a digital tape recorder. But it's also got a built-in synthesizer and drum machine as well. This here is a Roland JX10. This was the last of the big Roland analog polysynths. I wanted one of these when I was a kid, and I finally got one as an adult. This is a DX5 from Yamaha. This is two DX7s in one. So the DX7 was basically the keyboard that killed all the analog synthesizers back in the 80s. It was the first truly digital keyboard to come out, and when it did, it forced ARP, Oberheim, Moog, all those companies went out of business because of this thing. This up here is the Korg Radius, and what this is this is just a sound module. You could get it with a keyboard. I got it without because, well, obviously I have enough. And it does pretty much sound. It's a virtual representation of these analog ones as well. So it's similar, it's very similar to the microKORG over there, except it's more expanded, it's bigger. And it's a lot of fun to play with. This here is an Ovation KS5. And again, this is similar to this. It's a virtual analog synthesizer. So instead of using circuits to make sound, it does it digitally, and it digitally copies or tries to emulate the old analog synthesizers. The nice thing about this, although they all use similar technology, the digital ones, they all sound different. This is the Roland JV90. Now I bought this not because of how it sounds. I bought it because I was going to take it to Indonesia. I had the keyboard to travel with, right? But it's actually got some pretty interesting sounds in it. It's sort of it's a sample-based player, which means it has built-in recordings of sounds, and then you modify them. So like drums, guitars, saxophones. But you can massage it in different ways. This is Yamaha SY99. Now this here is a much more advanced version of this. Again, I bought this to travel to Indonesia with until I found out how heavy it is. And this thing is heavy. Because there's no way I'd want to travel with this. Too valuable. It's a classic.
You need like special box if you wanted to bring
I
it
wouldn't
over
even.
there.
I mean, one time when we moved there, that's fine, but to travel back and forth.
When we moved there, I mean.
Oh, this stuff's all going to be packaged up. But I wouldn't take this out touring, for example. It's just too old, too valuable. This here's the Emulator 2. This is from 1984. Well, this one's from 86 because this one had the hard drive option. And this thing was made famous by Front 242. Who else used it? Art of Noise. Well, they were mostly Fairlight. Depeche Mode, big time. They toured with these. Now, this doesn't make it sound directly. It records sounds. It's a sampler. But it's an 8-bit sampler. There was a smaller version of this that looked similar to the drum machine there, and it was called the SP12. And basically every famous early hip-hop record was made on that. So it's an old 8-bit sampler. This one's being worked on. This here is just a controller. It doesn't make sound either, but it can control these other ones, or you can plug it into a computer and control sounds inside of a computer. I just use this for traveling around with. What else we got? Oh, the infamous guitar. Found this at a pawn shop for dirt cheap.
How much?
I got it for $125. And then they stopped making them. And they went up to about $1,000. So they've gone down in price a little bit. But there's nothing in this room I won't make money off if I ever had to sell it. What other goodies do we got? Oh, this thing here, which I don't know where I'm going to put it because I don't have a lot of space. It's basically the voice, one of the voices of this in a little box. Oh no, wait, that's the sequencer. Oh yeah, I'm selling this. I don't need it anymore. So for computers, we've got an old Mac G3. And the reason I have that is to hook up to this. When this first came out, all it had was floppy drives.
Mm-hmm.
You can't even get the floppy drives anymore.
Yeah.
This version had a floppy drive and a hard drive. Very specific hard drive. Only one 20 megabyte hard drive. It's a Connor. Would work with this. Well, they haven't made those since the 80s. And you just cannot find them. They're impossible. So I thought the thing was kind of useless until some fancy guy out of Poland, I think, came up with this. And what this is this is a floppy drive emulator. So this would plug in where the floppy drive would go, but it uses SD cards. You can also use this with old games as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So if you have like an old PC games on a 3.5 inch or an Atari ST computer or Amiga or whatever, yeah. This is a Panasonic Toughbook, a CF27, which is 2. And you're thinking, why would I have something like this? Well, the reason I have this is because there's some old DOS software that some of these old keyboards worked with. You can't run it under Windows. So I needed an old PC to run old software. The other stuff we have, which you don't see here, is there's going to be 2 more laptops. One is going to be a Panasonic CF30 running Windows XP. And that's going to run a piece of software called Emulator, which is a much more advanced version of what this does. And then there's my other PC, which is a G-Tech, and it's going to run Ableton Live, which is my sequencing software. So back in the past, I would use this for sequencing, and it's a lot of fun using hardware, but it's pretty limited. Whereas in software, running Ableton Live, I can bring all this stuff into it and mix inside the box, which is what those drawings were for. Down here, we've got a variety of stuff. These are those MIDI interfaces that tie all the control signals together. These are the audio cards, which plug in through FireWire to the PC. This is an old drum head from a set of electronic drums from 1984. That's these old pads plug into.
Mm-hmm.
And it's controlled by this drum module from Yamaha. And what this does, the pads plug into this. This fires off the sounds in this, but using this, I can tie it into the rest of the system. Otherwise, I couldn't. So what's going to happen is this screen here, which is a touch screen.
Is it touch screen?
Yep, it's going to be mounted here somewhere, and this is going to run the virtual mixer, similar to this, in software in Ableton. Well, in the software that comes with the audio cards. And then I'm going to output some of the channels to this, and then feed it back in. That way I get that control and analog sound. This is the disaster. Oh, these up here. This is just a drum controller, so it's like this. Doesn't make any sound, but I can fire off drum kits inside Ableton. And this controls clips within Ableton. I can use this is called the push. I can use this to program music and sounds and whatever, control Ableton without having to use the PC so much. Let's see if any of this stuff works. Here's the sequencer, right? So it has its own built-in sounds. So here's a Roland drum kit. Right? And what I can do with this is I can actually record patterns. So this is one of the early beat making machines. Turn the metronome on. See what is our tempo set to 145. That's pretty quick. So slow down. There we go. So you press play. Actually, let's find a blank one. Empty sequence. Here we go. Now I can turn that off since I've already got a beat going. So I've got my drum, my kick drum. Now I've got a Roland 808 drum machine. So now it's not recording until I tell it to record. Let me find a sound I want. I don't like that last note. So now I'm just erasing those notes. Turn the quantize on because my timing sucks. Now I can do it. So now it's right on the beat, right? Now let's find something else to add to it. There we go. So anyway, this thing here, you can do whole songs on it if you want. And that's a lot. This one here, okay, now, remember I was talking about how one keyboard can control another?
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't have a keyboard. So what I've done is this one's plugged into this, so it will control this one. Let me find a good sound here. It's great if you want to do Kraftwerk type songs. There was one I found earlier that was really sweet. I haven't touched this for a while. Good old house music. Matter of fact, don't get much more housey than that. So it sounds pretty sweet, but it's all digital, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let me find a digital sound. Try and find a sound where it's trying to pretend it's one of the old analog machines. I know there's some good ones in here. There we go. So that's trying to sound analog, right? Listen to the real thing. Just give me a second, I gotta tune this. The thing about old analog synthesizers, depending on the temperature outside, they go out of tune. They're almost like guitars.
Oh.
So this one here, I got one voice that won't tune. There, they're all good. Hear the difference? This one sounds a little too clean, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this one sounds very dirty. Now if I had this one plugged in, it would sound pretty fat as well, actually. Let me do that. So here's a sound it's called, is this fat? Is that fat or is that fat? That sound needs to die, big time. So this is analog. This one's analog. So you can hear that fatness, right? That one's too loud. See, fat. Then we hit this one. Very clean.
Very clean. Yeah.
Sudamandi.
Sudah mandi.
So that's why you have different ones. They all sound different. I can put the same sound on this one, and this one, and this one, and this one, program them all the same, and they all sound different. Right? Where the real fun comes in is when you try and make them all play together. So, for example, let's get our beat going.
Reggae.
Ooh, reggae beat going on, eh? Now, since this one's controlling that, when I change this, it's going to change that one too. So I'm going to stop this for a second. So this one's now playing its own little thing, right? So this one starts going. Then we can play this one. Right? I gotta make my recording go, because I gotta tell it too. So we got a bass drum going. Let's get some hi-hats. There we go. Gotta get it on time here. So these two are in time. This one's playing the drums, this one's playing its own sounds, and then we can light up this guy here. So I'll tell you what this machine's perfect for. It's for doing dance music. That's pretty much what it was built for. The old baseline 303. You can hear it, right? This one's a lot of fun to synchronize up. This is what I want to get all set up. Right now it's all sort of a mess. Okay, this one's on its own. I can't control it in any way except from the keyboard.
Which your favorite one?
My favorite? Ooh. Well, for pure dirt, that one. I like that one. For crappy FM noise, definitely this one. But this was the first polysynth I ever bought, and it's still my favorite. Like, there's one sound on here that is absolutely classic. There's two. I'll play them both for you if I can find them here. This one is called Soundtrack. The funny thing is, this is a Roland analog, This is a Roland digital. And they tried to program this sound into this one. See if I can find it. It's hidden in here.
So what? This is analog?
This is, yeah, this is analog.
That
This
one is digital.
purely digital. Right? It's called soundtrack. Here's the original soundtrack. That's funny enough. Just controlling this too. I'll turn that off. You hear how warm that is? All analog, all digital. So this can do more. This is the other famous sound from this one. And this machine was used by Pink Floyd. It was used by Duran Duran extensively. A lot of the big names in the 80s and 90s used this bad boy because it was expensive. It was $5,000 back in the 80s.
Wow.
And of course, I couldn't afford it. So I had to wait until I grew up and buy it used. Thank you, eBay. Actually, this wasn't eBay. This was I got out of a newspaper, but Polysynth. So you hear how it sort of makes the room shake? Those speakers are now screaming. Whereas with this, if I can find the same one on poly brass, no matter how much I bang on this thing, it will not make the room shake. Ooh, got a sticky key, like pulse swell. It's good. But it's not the same. Now the funny thing is, this guy here is all digital too. But it can sound really fat. And I don't know why. Let me find a good example. Once we get past all the pianos. Saw pad, I think this is it. Hear that? It sounds pretty warm, but it's all digital. This is a great machine. I love this one. And Yamaha has the best feeling keyboards out of all of them, I think. Especially this guy here. So yeah, that's the objective. Get all this stuff hooked up. Get the computers in.
Stick with it.
Get everything tied into the mixer. You gotta hear this thing.
That one?
Yeah, this thing is such a treat. Got it in the thrift shop for $100.
No, 75.
Oh, 75, right, yeah. Now, did I explain about what makes this significant and why I bought it?
Yeah.
Okay. The most lusted after drum machine in the world is the Roland TR-808. This is a newer version of it over here. But the TR-808 was all analog, just like these guys. And they're extremely rare now. A lot of them are breaking down. You're going to pay thousands and thousands of dollars to get that drum machine. And the reason people want that drum machine is the kick. Like I've got a sample of it here. There's the 909. There's the 808. Recognize that sound? Every dance track's got it. It's not, if it's not an 808, it's a 909. But it's that really crappy analog drum sound. And there's the 909. Analog, right? But these are just samples, they're copies, they're not the real thing. So Ace Tone used to, their first line of business was putting out things like this, these drum machines, which would go on top of an organ. So organ players could play them. Where's the power? I even have this thing plugged in. So, trying to get one of those original 808 drum machines, unless you got lots of money, forget it. But, like I said, Acetone used to become Roland. Roland came out with the 808. Uses this, the Roland drum machine uses pretty much the same circuit that's in this. So essentially you get the kick drum without having to spend thousands of dollars. What I pay, $75, he said. Drifting a little bit. This is all analog, right? This is digitally controlled. The fun thing you can do with this, I don't know how to use it musically. So we go to my favorite. But if you do this, you combine two of them. I don't think they meant for you to be able to do this. Which one is it? Except you gotta hold them. So we go to the samba. And then if I wanted to really shake it up, kick in a little bossa nova.
That's a good mixing, actually.
I know. Oh, you can have all sorts of fun. You can even mix through them. Now there's the rumba. So let's mix the rumba, the samba, and the bossa nova. But let's cut out the cymbals because they kind of sound crappy. Now some of these are really bad, like the Western. Boom. Just like riding a horse. Dixieland. The waltz. Foxtrot. Swing. Tango. Like that one too. Mix it with the samba. Sometimes if you hit them right, they'll stay. And then you can use these buttons to take out parts of the sound. I love it. Absolutely love it. That crap out. And you got the old 808 kick. So this one here has samples, right? But it's been processed, digitally processed. This is the raw sound. So you have the raw sound, you can do whatever you want with it. Yeah, worth the $75. Mm-hmm. Definitely. So yeah, it's a work in progress. Got to put all this stuff together, and then we can start making music and get ready for Indonesian Idol, right?
An idol.
Yeah.
You're not Indonesian.
I'm not Indonesian. This is true.
Yeah.
But I could win.
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. I could.
Okay.
They'd want to see me. Boule up there, all these toys.
Girl.
You know it's true. That's right. I could do it. And why not?
Give me that. Uh-huh.
I could win it.
Uh-huh.
Yes, I could.
Uh-huh.
Even he agrees with me.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
You bet.
Yeah.
Now, if I hear any of that, it'd be like,
Yeah.
whatever.
Uh-huh.
What? Exactly. What? That's what I said.
Yeah.
Indonesian Idol, here I come.
Give me that.
Are you done?
I'm done. So, hopefully within the next couple of months, this will all be set up, and then we can really have some fun.
Couple months.
Maybe.
Maybe after March.
Well, the problem is you see all this cable. I got to custom cut it. I got to make my own MIDI connections.
And by the time maybe you gonna forget about me then because you're gonna be busy with these things. Look at that cable all over the floor.
Yeah.
Are you answering me with that thing?
Yeah.
Okay, baby.
So, thanks for seeing my mess. We'll see what it looks like after I get it all done. Then we'll make some music together.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Give me that.
I will. Catch you later.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Bye, babe. Bye. Oke, guys, itu spesial edisi dari David ya. Kasihan dia cuma sibuk kerja, nggak bisa gituin hobinya, maksudnya menyalurkan hobinya. Kasihan dia pekerja keras sampai lupa nyenengin diri. So thank you for watching edisi spesial saya. So like, subscribe, comment below. Oke, mau nanya apa aja tentang David? So yeah, thank you for watching.